All right. This week we are going to start our introduction to geometry, which is the study of shapes and measurement. And this first video deals mostly with measurement. For example, if we're going to talk about a rectangle as a shape, oftentimes when we talk about this rectangle, we can talk about, its length, its width, which we have to measure, and we can also talk about the area inside of the shape, which again, area is another form of measurement. So it's hard to talk about geometry without also talking about measurement. And something that will be used often is if I'm dealing with inches, sometimes you use the double hash marks, and feet, a single hash mark. So when we deal with measurement, we have length, which is a one-dimensional measurement. So a one-dimensional object has one point and another point, and it just goes back and forth between 2 points, left, right, left, right, left, right. It works back and forth within one dimension. So the length of an object, say for example this pencil, if it were to start here, it would go out to here, and the length of the object would be 7. It could be 7 inches, 7 centimeters, 7 units. It really just depends what those units are. Now, area is an example of a two-dimensional measurement. So when we talk about the area of something, we don't just go back and forth, but area would go side to side and up and down. Now, if I were to have a square which is 1 inch by 1 inch, right, 1 inch wide, 1 inch tall, this is 1 inch by 1 inch, it makes a 1 inch square. This is referred to as a 1 inch square, or 1 square inch, or 1 inch squared. All three of these different ways of talking about it are just fine. So when I talk about this already, I'm mixing units of measurement because the 5 inches is a length. It is 5 inches long this way. The 2 inches is a length. It is 2 inches long this way. However, the area is what I get when I start to fill it with little squares. And so I can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so the area, in this case, denoted by an A, will equal 2 times 5, or 10, right? As we can see, we have two groups of 5. But these are not inches. We have 10 square inches, right? Everything inside of here, this was a square inch, and this was a square inch. So when we multiply 5 inches and 2 inches, we end up with 10 square inches, the two-dimensional measurement of space inside of a two-dimensional object. And again, it could be centimeters, inches, feet. In general, if we have 1 unit by 1 unit, this is referred to as a 1 square unit, or 1 unit squared. Now, volume is a three-dimensional measurement, which we will mostly deal with next week. But for example, if I had a cube which was 1 foot wide, 1 foot deep, 1 foot tall, then the volume of this would be considered 1 cubic foot, or 1 foot cubed. All right, perimeter. Perimeter is a mix. Perimeter is a length, so it's a one-dimensional measurement around a two-dimensional shape. Now there's more to it than that, but say I had a rectangle here. If it was 2 inches tall and 5 inches wide, then I would be measuring the length around the outside. So that's a length, and that's a length, and that is a length, and that is a length. And so it's the overall length going around the outside of a two-dimensional shape. So this would be 2 plus 2 plus 5 plus 5, or the perimeter in this case would be 14. Again, perimeter denoted by a P. So in general, the perimeter would be W plus L plus L, where I use L and W for length and width pretty interchangeably, or 2 times W plus 2 times L is the perimeter formula for a rectangle. You cannot use that perimeter formula for any other shapes. It's only for rectangles. And we will get into other area and perimeter formulas as we move forward this week. Okay, other types of measurements, because so far we just talked about length, area, volume. But in 11.1 of our book, they ask the question, what is the biggest tree in the world? And it brings to mind lots of things. They discuss how, well, do you mean by biggest tree the tree that is the tallest? Because you could have a really tall, narrow tree. Or do they mean the tree that is the widest? Or do they mean the tree that's not necessarily the tallest or the widest, but maybe has the most volume? Or you could even think about weight. Maybe the biggest tree is the heaviest tree, and then that brings into the density of the wood. There's a lot of different ways we can talk about size, and until you decide on what size you're going to measure by, it's hard to say which is the biggest. So moving down, in the United States, there are common units of measurement, and we have, just as we described, there's units of length, inches, feet, yards, miles. A few things we will need to know is there's 3 feet in a yard, 12 inches in a foot, and 5,280 feet in 1 mile. Or if you divide 5,280 by 3, you get 1,760 yards per mile. And then for area, we have square inches, square feet, square yards, square miles, and an acre, which is considered to be 43,560 square feet. Not anything you need to have memorized, but this information up here is pretty good. And then when it comes to volume, we have cubic inches, cubic feet, cubic yards. Now, when we get into volume of liquids, oftentimes we refer to other things. They call these units of capacity, but they are really volumes. Teaspoons, tablespoons, cups, pints, quarts, gallons. You could convert gallons to how many, cubic feet are in a gallon, or how many gallons are in a cubic foot. And one thing I would mention is oftentimes a cup is referred to as 8 fluid ounces. And that traditionally comes from the fact that a cup of water actually weighs about 8 ounces. However, when you talk about 8 fluid ounces, that is a measurement equivalent to 1 cup, which is a measurement of volume, not a measurement of weight. And then we have measurements of weight, ounces, pounds, tons, and there's even measurements of temperature, which we're not going to deal with too much in this section. Now, if we scroll on a little bit further, there is the metric system, units of measurement, which the majority of the world uses. Units of length would be millimeters, centimeters, meters, kilometers. There's 10 millimeters in a centimeter, 100 centimeters in a meter, 1,000 meters in a kilometer. And then you could have square, meters, centimeters, kilometers, millimeters, etc. And cubic. And then they also had units of capacity. Now, a milliliter is actually, 1 milliliter is actually equal to 1 cubic centimeter, right? Units of capacity are equivalent to units of volume. They're just used differently in different contexts. And then there are units of weight in the metric system, which again is not something we are dealing with at this course or in this section. And then units of temperature in the metric system. All right. So oftentimes in measurement, we must convert, which means to change from one type of unit to another. This is referred to as unit conversion. So the one way we can convert from the metric system to the standard system is that we know 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. We could also say there are 2.54 centimeters per inch or 2.54 centimeters per inch like this. This hopefully looks something like a group size based on all of the equal groups talk we have been doing. And so using that, we can start to convert from the metric system to the United States standard measurement system and back and forth. So I'm going to stop this video and we'll get into that in the next one.